The gavel cracked like a gunshot in the stale air of the Des Moines courthouse, and Alex Harper's world shattered for the third time that morning. Mr. Harper, you will not see those children unsupervised, not today, not next week, not ever if I have my say. Judge Harlan barked, his voice a gravelly echo of small-town justice. As Sarah's tear-streaked face twisted into a mask of triumph across the room, Alex felt the invisible chains tighten around his heart, the ones she'd forged years ago when she whispered, "I know who you are, but I can't let you go." Rain hammered the windshield of Alex's beat-up Ford pickup like accusatory fists as he barreled down I-35, the Iowa fields blurring into a gray smear of regret. It had been 7 years since he'd come out. 7 years of birthday cards returned unopened, school plays missed from afar, and voicemails from his daughter Lily that ended in Sarah's curt hang-ups. "She's too young to understand your choices." 38. Alex was a ghost in his own family, haunting the edges of their lives from his cramped apartment above the local garage where he fixed transmissions for folks who still called him that queer mechanic behind his back. He'd built a life in the heartland, or so he told himself, long shifts under hoods slick with oil, Friday nights at the VFW hall nursing a Bud Light, and the quiet ache of scrolling through Sarah's Facebook, where Lily and Max beamed in framed photos that might as well have been tombstones. But today, the ache had teeth. The temporary restraining order Sarah's lawyer had slapped down in family court wasn't just paper. It was a guillotine. Unfit parent. Her attorney had sneered during the hearing, waving exhibits like red flags. Alex's old bar tabs from the short-lived Des Moines gay scene he'd dipped into post-divorce, a neighbor's affidavit claiming he'd corrupted the neighborhood youth by waving a pride flag from his porch. Never mind that Alex hadn't dated in years, that his world revolved around saving for braces for kids he'd never hugged. Sarah sat there in her pressed blouse, the picture of Midwestern piety. Her green eyes, once soft with shared secrets, now flinty daggers. She hadn't looked at him once, not even when the judge adjourned for recess and Alex mouthed, "Why?" He pulled into the gravel lot of Harper's Auto Repair, the sign he'd painted himself after the divorce, a defiant splash of red against the faded clapboard. Inside, the shop smelled of motor oil and stale coffee, the fluorescent buzz a poor substitute for the laughter that used to fill his home. His dad, Big Tom Harper, was elbow-deep in a Chevy's engine, his flannel sleeves rolled up over forearms like tree trunks. The 70, Tom still moved like he could wrestle a combine, but his eyes softened when Alex slumped onto a stool. "Bad," Tom grunted, wiping grease on a rag without looking up. "Worse than bad, Dad. She's got the judge eating out of her hand. Says I'm a danger to him." Alex's voice cracked, and he hated it, hated how Sarah had twisted his truth into a weapon. Their marriage had been a house of cards from the start. 22 and fresh out of community college, Alex had proposed in a cornfield under a harvest moon, Sarah's laughter like wind chimes as she said yes. They'd built a life in this sleepy suburb. Sunday barbecues, little league games where Alex coached Max's team to a championship, bedtime stories for Lily that ended with her giggling into his chest. But the nights grew longer, the touches colder. Alex buried his confusion in overtime at the plant, in the furtive glances at the rough-hewn guys in the locker room, until one humid August evening in 2018, he shattered it all. "I can't pretend anymore, Sarah," he'd said in their kitchen, the linoleum sticky from Lily's spilled Kool-Aid. "I'm gay. I love you as a friend, as the mother of our kids, but not like that." Her face had crumpled, not in anger, but something deeper, a wound she'd nursed in silence. "I knew," she'd whispered, her hands trembling on the table. "Since the honeymoon, when you couldn't. I knew. But I thought love could fix it." They divorced amicably at first, joint custody papers signed over coffee, promises to co-parent like adults. Then came the distance. Sarah's new boyfriend, a real estate agent named Greg with a boat and a Bible study group, whispering in her ear about protecting the children from sin. The visits dwindled, canceled playdates, forgotten holidays until last Christmas, when Lily's excited call cut short with Sarah's voice in the background. "Hang up, honey. Daddy's not coming this year." Tom set down his wrench, crossing the shop in 2 strides to clap a hand on Alex's shoulder. "That girl's got more venom than a rattlesnake since Greg left her. But courts ain't forever, son. You fight dirty if you have to." Alex nodded, but the fight felt like swimming upstream in the Mississippi. He poured himself a coffee, black as his mood, and stared at the family portrait on the wall. Him, Sarah, the kids at Disney World in 15. Mickey ears askew and grins wide. That trip had been their last hurrah, a desperate bid to stitch the fraying seams. On the plane home, Sarah had squeezed his hand, her voice a hush. "Whatever happens, Alex, you're the best man I know. Lies, all of it now." The next morning dawned brittle with frost, the kind that crunched under boots like broken promises. Alex arrived at the courthouse early. His lawyer, a sharp-dressed woman named Elena Vasquez from the Des Moines Legal Aid, waiting on the steps with a thermos of something that smelled like cinnamon. Elena was in her 40s, all tailored suits and no-nonsense braids, the kind of advocate who'd clawed her way up from migrant fields to Ivy League briefs. "We've got a Hail Mary," she said, handing him a folder stamped confidential. Sarah's old emails to her sister, nothing damning yet, but it shows she encouraged your involvement early on. We build from there. Inside, the courtroom hummed with the low drone of fluorescent lights and whispered consultations. Sarah sat ramrod straight beside her counsel, a slick Des Moines firm type named Barrett Klein, who looked like he'd stepped out of a J. Crew catalog. Greg was absent. No surprise there. He'd bolted 6 months back after Sarah's hysterical episode, as the gossip mill spun it. Lily and Max were with a sitter, their absence a void that sucked the air from Alex's lungs. He caught Sarah's eye as they rose for the pledge, and for a split second, her mask slipped, a flicker of the girl who danced with him at their wedding to Springsteen, barefoot in the barn. "Mr. Klein," Judge Harlan intoned, settling into his leather throne. "Your motion to make the restraining order permanent?" Barrett stood, all polished teeth and practiced pauses. "Your Honor, my client, Mrs. Sarah Harper, seeks full custody due to Mr. Harper's ongoing instability. Exhibits A through F detail his post-divorce behavior, excessive alcohol consumption, associations with unsavory elements in the local nightlife, and a failure to provide consistent emotional support." He projected slides, blurry photos of Alex outside a bar called the Rusty Nail, arms slung around a stranger in a flannel shirt. Alex's stomach twisted. That night had been a one-off, a weak moment after Sarah denied his Thanksgiving visit, drowned in cheap whiskey and a stranger's fleeting comfort. Elena rose like a storm front. "Objection, Your Honor. These images are cherry-picked and outdated. Mr. Harper has maintained steady employment, 0 DUIs, and a spotless record. Mrs. Harper's own communications," she tapped the folder, "demonstrate her initial support for shared parenting." The judge peered over his bifocals. "Overruled for now, counselor. But I'll hear rebuttals after lunch." As the room emptied, Alex lingered, tracing the grain of the wooden bench. Sarah brushed past. Her perfume, J'adore, the same as their anniversary dinners, a ghost from better days. "This isn't personal, Alex," she murmured, so low he almost missed it. "It's for the kids." "Bullshit. he hissed, grabbing her elbow gently. You've been poisoning them against me since day one. What happened to us? Sarah? What happened to you? She yanked free, eyes blazing. You happened. You left us for whatever this is. But her voice wavered, and in that crack, Alex glimpsed the chasm, the unspoken truth she'd walled off years ago. Lunch was a sandwich he couldn't swallow, wolfed down in Elena's office across from the courthouse. She paced, heels clicking like metronomes. We need more. Her sister's deposition is gold. She says Sarah admitted knowing about your orientation before the wedding. If we can tie that to the custody blocks. A knock interrupted, and the door swung open to reveal a man Alex hadn't expected. Jordan Reese, Elena's paralegal, balancing a stack of files and 2 takeout bags from the Greek spot downtown. Jordan was 35, if that, with the kind of easy grace that turned heads, cropped blonde hair, wire-rimmed glasses that did nothing to hide sharp blue eyes, and a button-down rolled to elbows revealing forearms dusted with freckles. He'd been in the gallery that morning, scribbling notes, but up close, he smelled like cedar and fresh ink, a far cry from the garage's grit. Reinforced the timeline, Jordan said, handing Elena a tablet. His gaze flicked to Alex, lingering just a beat too long. Hey, you holding up? Alex managed a nod, throat tight, like a transmission with a busted gasket. Jordan chuckled, low and warm, sliding a euro across the desk. Eat. Courts run on spite and spanakopita. There was something disarming about him. Not pity, but solidarity, the quiet nod of someone who'd navigated his own storms. Over bites, Jordan shared snippets. Grew up in Omaha, out since 16. Now splitting time between legal aid and volunteering at the local LGBTQ center. Seen too many guys like you get steamrolled by exes with grudges, he said. I steady. But you're tougher than you look. By afternoon recess, the air in the courtroom thickened with tension, the kind that precedes a Midwestern thunderstorm. Barrett called his star witness, Sarah's sister, Melinda, a pinched-face accountant from Cedar Rapids who testified in clipped tones about Alex's erratic moods during the divorce. He'd show up late to pickups, smelling like, well, you know, she said, glancing at the judge with feigned delicacy. Elena cross-examined like a surgeon. Ms. Tate, in your email to Sarah dated March 2019, Exhibit G, you wrote, Alex is a great dad. Don't let the lawyers scare you into this. Why the change? Melinda flushed. I was being supportive, but seeing it play out. Supportive enough to ignore Sarah's own words? Elena projected the email chain. Sarah's frantic reply. I can't lose them to him, Mel. He chose this life over us. The gallery murmured, and Alex's pulse thundered. It was the first crack in Sarah's armor, but not the fracture. As the day dragged into evening, Jordan slipped Alex a note during a sidebar. Drinks after? You need an ally, not just a lawyer. Alex stared at the scrawl, a lifeline in the chaos. For the first time in hours, his chest loosened not from hope, but from the simple fact that someone saw him, not as a label or a failure, but as a man worth fighting for. The second day of the hearing dawned under a sky the color of tarnished silver, the Iowa wind whipping leaves across the courthouse lawn like confetti from a funeral. Alex arrived with dark circles etched under his eyes, the kind that spoke of midnight scrolls through old photos and the what-ifs that clawed at his sleep. Jordan had texted late last night. No pressure, just venting over wings, and though Alex had begged off, citing the trial's weight, the invitation lingered like a half-smoked cigarette, tempting and out of reach. Elena was already in the war room, her desk a battlefield of highlighters and legal pads. We push today, she said, voice steel. Sarah's on the stand. If we can get her to slip. Sarah took the oath with the poise of a Sunday school teacher, her auburn hair pinned back, hands folded like prayer. Barrett led her gently. The devoted mother, rising realtor in a town that valued picket fences over rainbow flags. Mrs. Harper, describe your concerns for Lily and Max's well-being in Mr. Harper's care. She paused, eyes downcast, the picture of reluctant candor. Alex is a good man, but after the divorce, he changed. The drinking, the men. I fear for their innocence. Lily came home once, asking why Daddy has a different family now. It broke my heart. Alex gripped the bench, knuckles white, lies layered on half-truths. That bar night had been one. The different family, a distortion of the center where he'd taken the kids for a single art class before Sarah yanked access. Elena waited until Barrett sat, then rose with the predator's calm. Mrs. Harper, you were aware of Mr. Harper's sexual orientation prior to your marriage. Sarah's composure flickered, candle in draft. I suspected. But love blinds you. Blinds. Or binds. Exhibit H, your journal entry from 2014. Pre-wedding. I see how he looks at Jake from the garage. God, I wish it was me. But I'll make it work. For us. Elena's voice was velvet over razor wire. The words hung, unearthed from a box of keepsakes Sarah's lawyer had, accidentally, included in discovery. The gallery gasped softly. Judge Harlan leaned forward, bushy brows knitting. Sarah's face drained to ash. That's private. Taken out of context. Context is everything, Mrs. Harper. You knew, yet you married him. Buried your doubts. And now, you bury his rights as a father. Elena pressed, projecting the scanned page. Sarah's looping script a confession in ink. I loved him, Sarah burst, voice cracking across the room like thunder. Heads turned. The stenographer's keys faltered. I loved him so much it hurt. Thought I could change him, or that it didn't matter. But when he left, when he chose that, it was like he buried me alive. Tears spilled. Not theatrical but raw. The kind that carve canyons. Alex stared, the room tilting. This wasn't betrayal. It was a mirror to his own buried grief. The years he'd spent denying himself, denying her a real partner, all for the facade of normalcy. Barrett objected furiously. Irrelevant emotional outburst. But the damage bloomed. Recess was called, the courtroom emptying into a buzz of speculation. Alex stumbled into the hall, air thick in his lungs, and there was Jordan, leaning against the vending machine with 2 Cokes. His tie loosened like an invitation. You okay? Jordan asked, pressing the cold can into Alex's palm. Their fingers brushed, a spark in the fluorescent hum. Not even close. Alex's laugh was hollow. She knew, all along. And I let her think it was her fault. Jordan's eyes, that piercing blue, held steady. Fault's a lousy judge. Alex, you both played the hand you were dealt. But those kids, they need their dad. Secrets and all. They talked in the stairwell, away from prying ears. Jordan sharing his own coming-out war story. Disowned by a preacher dad in Omaha. Rebuilding in Des Moines with nothing but grit and a second-hand Vespa. Love's not a straight line, he said, voice low. It's detours, dead ends. But it finds you anyway. By the time they reconvened, Sarah was composed again, but the air crackled with unspoken fractures. Elena called Alex to the stand, and he testified in measured tones, the coaching clinics, the bedtime rituals, the voicemails he'd saved like relics. I never stopped being their dad, he said. Voice steady for the first time. Sarah and I, we built something real, even if it bent wrong. But keeping them from me, that's the real hurt. Cross-examination was brutal. Barrett probing his lifestyle like a coroner. But Alex held, bolstered by Jordan's nod from the back row. Then came the bombshell. Elena's final exhibit, a letter Sarah had written to Alex post-divorce. Never sent. Discovered in her attic by a well-meaning cousin. I buried my love for you because it was killing me, it read in trembling script. But I won't bury our kids' chance at truth. Forgive me. The judge adjourned for deliberation. The gavels echo a heartbeat in the silence. Outside, rain slicked the streets, but Alex felt a thaw. Jordan waited by his truck, umbrella in hand. Dinner? He ventured, casual as Midwest weather. No depositions, just company. Alex hesitated, then smiled small. Real. Yeah. Company sounds good. The third day broke with a tentative sun, filtering through the courthouse blinds like hesitant forgiveness. Deliberations had stretched overnight. Judge Harlan's chambers a pressure cooker of Iowa pragmatism. Alex arrived early, Jordan at his side now, not just paralegal, but anchor, bearing coffees from the corner diner, steam curling like whispered hopes. Their evening had unfolded over gyros and gravelly Merlot at a quiet bistro, words flowing easier than Alex remembered. Jordan's volunteer stories at the center, Alex's dreams of road-tripping the kids to Yellowstone once the storm passed. No kisses, no rush, just the electric hum of possibility. Two men untangling knots in the dim light of string bulbs. Whatever happens, Jordan murmured as they climbed the steps, you've got backup. Inside, the courtroom felt smaller, charged. Sarah sat alone, her lawyer fidgeting beside her. No Greg, no Melinda, just the weight of her unraveling facade. When the bailiff called order, Judge Harlan cleared his throat, the room holding its collective breath. I've reviewed the evidence, he began, voice rumbling like distant thunder. This case ain't about labels or old sins. It's about what's best for Lily and Max Harper. Mrs. Harper, your devotion is clear, but weaponizing pain to deny a father? That's a bridge too far. He paused, scanning notes. The restraining order is dissolved. Joint custody, 50-50, with supervised transitions for the first 6 months. And mandatory counseling for both parents. Dismissed. The gavel fell, and chaos bloomed. Barrett's protests drowned in murmurs. Elena's triumphant exhale. Sarah stood frozen, then turned to Alex, her face a mosaic of relief and ruin. I'm sorry, she whispered as he passed, voice barely audible. The letter, it was true. I buried it to survive. Alex stopped, the old pull of their shared history tugging. We both did. But the kids, they're the unburied part. Let's not fail them again. Outside, the sun broke full, gilding the wet pavement. Lily and Max waited in the lobby with a social worker, wide-eyed and tentative 7 and 5 now, gangly limbs and gap-toothed grins that hit Alex like sunlight after eclipse. Daddy, Lily ventured, clutching a stuffed bear. He dropped to his knees, arms open. Hey, Bugs. Missed you more than pie. They collided in a tangle of hugs and questions. Why'd it take so long? Can we get ice cream? Sarah hovering at the edge, her smile fragile but genuine. Jordan watched from the doorway, a quiet pillar, and when Alex caught his eye over Max's tousled head, the nod they shared was a promise. Detours leading home. Weeks blurred into a new rhythm. Weekends at the park with frisbees and hot dogs. School drop-offs where Sarah's wave held less frost. Counseling sessions peeled back layers. Sarah admitting her buried love had twisted into resentment. a desperate grasp at the family she'd envisioned. Alex confessing the guilt that chained him to silence for years. "We were kids playing house," he told her one rainy Tuesday in the therapist's office, rain pattering like applause. "But we made magic anyway," Jordan wove in seamlessly. Not a rebound, but a revelation. Their first real date was a bonfire at his cabin outside town. Stars pricking the velvet sky as guitars strummed from a Bluetooth speaker. To unburying, Jordan toasted with craft IPAs, clinking bottles. Laughter came easy, then stories deeper. Jordan's fear of forever after a bad breakup, Alex's terror that love meant loss. When their hands found each other across the flames, it was tentative, then sure, a bridge over the chasm. Betrayal's shadow lingered, though not Sarah's, but Alex's own. One night, post-custody swap, Max asked point-blank, "Are you gonna leave us like Mommy's friend did?" The question gutted him, a reminder of the fractures he'd helped forge. He called Jordan at midnight, voice raw. "What if I'm just poison?" "You're not," Jordan said, showing up unannounced with pie from the all-night diner. "You're human. And that's enough." The climax came unbidden. On a crisp October eve at the county fair, corn dogs and carousel lights, Lily's hand sticky in his. Sarah approached with Greg's old boat keys jingling, her laugh lighter these days. "Truce?" she offered, holding out a funnel cake. But as they talked, her eyes darted to Jordan, trailing cotton candy with Max. "He's good for you," she said softly. "Better than I ever was." It was absolution, wrapped in grease-stained paper. The secret love she'd buried not just for Alex, but for the life they might have built apart. "I held on too tight," she admitted. "Afraid of being alone with my own heart." Alex pulled her into a hug, the fair's clamor fading. "We're not alone anymore," as fireworks bloomed overhead, painting the sky in reds and golds. Alex found Jordan in the crowd, their fingers interlacing like puzzle pieces. The kids cheered, oblivious to the poetry, and in that moment, the heartland felt vast enough for all of it. The betrayals mended, the loves unearthed, a family not perfect, but whole. In the years that followed, Alex and Jordan built a life threaded with quiet triumphs. A joint backyard barbecue where Sarah brought her new partner, a teacher with kind eyes. Road trips to the Badlands where Lily sketched canyons and Max chased lizards, their laughter the best revenge. Alex fixed cars by day, volunteered at the center by night, Jordan's legal briefs mingling with his oil-stained overalls in the laundry basket. There were arguments over whose turn it was for dishes, or the ache of old wounds flaring, but always, the pullback, hands held in the dark, whispers of "I see you." Sarah and Alex co-parented with the grace of survivors, holidays a shared mosaic rather than battlegrounds. One Christmas, she slipped him a wrapped box, her old journal, pages dog-eared but peaceful. "Burn it or keep it," she said. "Just know I let go." He kept it, on a shelf beside family albums, a testament to the boy who'd hidden and the man who'd emerged. And when Lily came out at 16, fierce and unapologetic, dating a girl from the debate team, Alex held her through tears, Jordan's arm around them both. "Love's a detour worth every mile," he told her, echoing words that had saved him. In the end, it wasn't a fairy tale, but an American one, gritty, resilient, laced with the scent of turned earth and possibility. Alex Harper, once buried under secrets, stood tall in the light, father, lover, survivor, proving that even the deepest graves could bloom.